I'm going to teach you a Jedi mind trick for being your best self in difficult situations. First, I'm going to describe it, and then I'm going to tell you the story of how it came into be and why it works so well. And here's the Jedi mind trick for being your best self. There is somebody in the world that you know that around them you are most often your best self. It might be your son or daughter. It might be your father or mother. It might be your best teacher. It might be your therapist. It might be your minister. It might be your husband or wife or lover. When that person is around, you tend to be your best self. And so the Jedi mind trick for being your best self a whole lot is imagine that person around all the time watching you do whatever you do. If you can imagine that person there watching you talk to somebody, watching you on the phone, watching you at work, watching you parent, watching you deal with crisis, watching you drive the car, you will be more likely to be your best self. So you keep that person around. It's Jedi mind trick. Now, how did this come into being? Well, I'm a martial artist, studied martial arts forever. Karate and sword fencing and wrestling and weapons, all these kinds of things. And studied the way of the warrior. And so anybody who's done that loves the Star Wars movies, the epic journey, heroes, ultimate fighting, that kind of thing. And so I had a martial artist in treatment with me one day, and he and I were talking about him being his best self in difficult situations with people that he loved, with his wife, with his children, sometimes with business partners. And so as we were walking out the door, he said, "Keith, what's a Jedi mind trick that will help me be my best self? So help me remember this when I forget it. I forget it so easily." And I said, well, who's the person that you most consistently are your best self around? You're the most patient. You're the most mature. You're the most caring. He said, that's easy. It's my 7-year-old son. I'm always focused on being a good man, being a good parent for him. I said, well, then your Jedi mind trick is imagine him with you all the time, watching you. You are modeling to him how to be a superior man. You're modeling to him how to handle himself when he feels sad, or when he feels frightened, or when he feels exultant, or when he feels arrogant, or when he feels joyful. You're modeling for him how to deal with his lover when you're having problems with your wife. You're modeling for him how to deal with other people when you're getting along well and when you're in conflict. You're modeling for him how to receive negative feedback and positive feedback. All the time you are modeling for him. He's there. Imagine him there. That is your Jedi mind trick. He said, great, I will do that. And he did. And it works great. Now, like all the things that I teach and that everybody teaches, nothing works all the time because people are too complicated and powerful for anything to work all the time. But that works a lot. Now, why does it work so well? Our brains exist simultaneously in the past, present, and future. This was our gift of self-aware consciousness. And that means in our brains, people are always existing. People that are dead still exist inside us in some way. Socrates exists for me, even though he's been dead for 2,400 years, and Plato. My father and mother, 4,000 miles away, they exist for me at this moment. And my children and my wife. You exist for me. Our brains have endless capacity for existing simultaneously in the past, present, and future. And so our brains also go in and out of states of consciousness depending upon what they read in the environment. If my brain reads the environment safe, I'm more relaxed. Unsafe, I'm more defensive, and so on. We can teach our brains to have different kinds of awarenesses that cross states of consciousness. I can teach my brain to imagine my wife watching me talk to you. And then I can teach my brain to imagine my wife sitting with me in the car as I drive to go swimming later on or walk on the beach. I can imagine myself having Becky, my wife, watching me teach as I'm lecturing to a group of people. I can imagine my wife watching me discussing, telling stories to an individual or a couple that I'm working with and helping to love better and be healthier. If I imagine that enough, then she becomes a presence next to me. And my mind naturally adjusts to the state of consciousness that I tend to be in when I'm being observed by her. And like any practice, if I do it consciously enough, after a while it becomes a habit. As I've mentioned before, we direct our learning from our frontal lobes, the front part of our brains. This is my eyes, this is the front part of my brain, here are the frontal lobes. The right frontal lobe is where our habits are, and it learns very slowly. Left part of our brain, where language is, learns about routines, and it learns quickly. Language is a series of routines. New habits are learned first by learning about something different and consciously doing them different until finally it gets to the deep learning in our right hemisphere. So if I can remind myself all the time that I'm being observed by someone I care about, after a while that becomes a little bit of the background noise of my life. And then when I enter other states of consciousness, I still have that faint sense of being observed. That sense of being observed by someone I care about changes my state slightly and will help me be a better person. It's a Jedi mind trick for being your best person a lot more of the time.